advert that was actually emphasizing these two very different functions of different sides of the brain. And what the system does, because it knows that this is where creativity is, this is what connects the dots. Because this sees the tapestry, this sees the strands. If they keep you in the left brain, it's all dots. You get in the right brain, the dots are a picture. That's why they don't want us to connect the dots. That's why they don't want us in the right side of the brain. And so they put the soldiers on the gate of the left side of the brain to stop the right side getting in and having an influence. And what is that? It's doctors, it's journalists. And I'm not saying they know what they're doing this. They don't. They've gone through the system as well. It's scientists, academics in all their forms, and all the rest of it. And if you look at exams in education, what we call education, it's all left side of the brain information, and all the time cutbacks in the arts and things that would open the right side of the brain. I've never made one of my discoveries, said Einstein, through the process of rational thinking. No, through going to another level of awareness beyond the village idiot of rational thinking as we perceive it. Cosmic communication. This is the wireless internet on an electrical level. There's a whole area of science now called the electric universe. Two of the great pioneers and founders are Wallace Thornhill and David Tolbert. This is a brilliant book. It's very difficult to get hold of, explaining how the universe has a electrical level, electromagnetic level. It explains so much. We all realize that there's electricity in the atmosphere because we see lightning. What we don't realize is when something's lightning in the lower atmosphere, there's other electrical things going on right out into the cosmos because it's an electrical system. This is a news story. High-speed solar winds increase lightning strikes on Earth. Scientists have discovered new evidence to suggest that lightning on Earth is triggered not only by cosmic rays from space but also by energetic particles from the sun. There is an electromagnetic field which connects everything. Electrical tornadoes, they are fast-rotating electromagnetic fields. The northern lights, the aurora borealis, electrical light show. Electrical comets as they interact with the electrical level of the universe. Electrical galaxy, the spinning of the galaxy. And Nikola Tesla said this: all peoples everywhere should have free energy sources. Electric power is everywhere present in unlimited quantities and can drive the world's machinery without the need for coal, oil, and gas. And he knew that. He knew that, and he died penniless in a hotel room in New York in 1943. And who are the forces that are suppressing this knowledge? The very sources that are telling you we must deindustrialize because of global bloody warming. That's a load of bollocks anyway. Scam. Gravity is powerful. Okay, the electrical force is about 1,000 trillion times more powerful than gravity. This is what the magnetic force is capable of. And as the electrical universe postulates, the force that hold the planets in their places and their stability are not gravitational forces, they are electromagnetic forces, which brings about a very simple thing. If you can, or something destabilizes those electromagnetic forces, then the planets go walkabout. And I'll get to this in part 2, but they went walkabout in geological terms very bloody recently. 99.99% of the universe or our reality is plasma. And plasma just happens to be an almost perfect medium for electrical forces. They say in the laboratory, plasma exhibits a lifelike ability to self-organize and cope with the stresses of its electrical environment. Why? Because it's conscious. Everything is conscious. And in the electrical universe arena, they can recapture happenings in the heavens in the laboratory using things like plasma focus devices. Try to get mainstream to replicate what they say happens in the universe and how. Electrical sun, plasma sun, almost entirely plasma, they say. Why? Because it is a processor of electrical power, information. Electric sun, I mean, it's not bloody obvious, is it? And they say that what the sun is like a nuclear reactor that starts in the middle and convects out. Well, they say there's a radiative zone. Well, apparently there's very little evidence, if any, for that. And the convective zone they've found is about 1% of it needs to be to do what they say it does. What the electrical universe position says, with tremendous evidence, is that actually it's coming the other way. It's not coming out from the sun, it's coming into the sun, being processed and then going out from the sun in another form. In ultraviolet light, you have what they call a torus, or like a donut around the sun, well out, and it is a collector of electrical power. And what happens is, as that electrical power builds up and builds up, just like lightning is a release of too much electricity in the atmosphere, so there are massive releases of electrical power from this torus, and they head for the sun and they bang into the sun, create massive holes that we call sunspots. According to the electric universe, sunspots are not going that way and banging outwards, they're coming this way and banging outwards. And here's another kind of thing that supports where the power is really coming from. On the surface of the sun, it's about 5,000 degrees Kelvin, that heat measurement called Kelvin. And in the upper levels of the sun, way out from the surface, it's 200 million degrees. And that's the sunspots. And so you have cycles when this electrical power is very, very powerful and when it's less powerful. And that is what creates the sun cycle, when there's more power coming from the sun and then there's less power. Another great thing that explains another thing is when plasma has a electrical force or electrical state of a certain kind, and it meets plasma with an electrical state of another kind, the plasma automatically creates a barrier between the two. They're called Langmuir sheaths, after Irving Langmuir, who discovered them. And that's why we have these energy fields around planets. And we, in our electromagnetic level, and the planets are interacting with this electrical force, which is delivering, again, information within the cosmic internet. And again, you've got the brain cell and the universe. So this starts to explain this. Astrology. What we call planets and stars are, in their base form, waveform information fields. And as they move through the greater cosmic internet, they are impacting upon it in terms of changed information. They're changing its nature. And when these planets move into certain situations in relation to each other, the impact becomes even greater. And so, where the planets are dictates the nature of the energy field. And when we come into this reality, we pick up the energy field at that point in the cycle. And so we pick up a different energy field to someone else. And we interact with the energy field as we go through our life, therefore, in a different way compared with someone else who comes into the cycle at a different point. And that's what we call astrology. And in its deep scientific level, it is a science. Not in the, local newspaper with a little one paragraph, but at its deep level, it is a science. In the right hands, everything in the right hands. And because we live in a hologram, this is a smaller version of the universe, a smaller version of everything we perceive to be above it. Now, time and space are great creators of illusion, and that's what they are, illusions. Far away, we see stars, we say they're billions of light years away. Hold on. In that form, they exist. When we decode them here, they're centimeters away, in effect. And it's just, again, waveform into hologram. Space. No wonder people are turning to alternative news outlets. Okay, let's go. And to be fair to the person involved, who's just doing her job, what chance has she got, even if she wanted to, of putting this event in context, having missed the first 3.5 hours and missing probably most of what's to come after this section. Anyway, let's have a recap. This is who we are. We are infinite awareness having an experience. The idea of the conspiracy is to make us identify with the experience. Boom! Little me, I have no power. I am all limited. I am just someone who has to follow others. And to manipulate the way we decode reality to fit the ability of the few to control the many by keeping the many in a fraction of who they really are, by identifying with name, with job, with family and income bracket instead of the true nature of infinite self, and to hijack the way we decode reality through the five senses to impose a very different one, to give us the idea that we must follow, we have no power. Someone else must tell us what to think, what to do. And it's control of perception. Like I said earlier, if you control someone's perception, you control their actions, which come from perceptions. And that's the idea. And all these things, interestingly, in all those news organizations, what are they doing? They're telling people what to think. And the other thing is that when you, especially as we go through the section after this one, all the different expressions of this conspiracy, everything from banking scams to vaccines to fake human-caused global warming, stuff in additives in food, fake terrorist attacks so that you can change society by justifying change. The idea that all this is being orchestrated by men and women in dark suits or whatever, sitting round a table, it takes on the bounds of ludicrousness. Do these exist? Of course they do. But they are the outer rim of the rabbit hole. And when you go beyond them, deeper into the manipulation, you go through them into the advisors. The people that we think are in power, that's only for public consumption. They're here today, gone tomorrow people in all the areas of institutions and politics, and another bunch will come along tomorrow, but the same force will be controlling them as well. That's the common theme, that's the cement. And you hit the advisors one step back. You go deeper in the rabbit hole, and you go into these really exclusive secret societies, which are way back out of the public domain, and yet they are fundamentally influencing and impacting on what happens in the public domain. So when you've got someone like Obama, he is announcing legislation, he's signing executive orders and death lists for bloody drone missiles in Pakistan, etc. But he ain't the one who's deciding all this. He's the one that's the point that brings it into reality through legislative change. And so behind all these apparently unconnected areas like banks and biotech cartels and NATO and the World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, the media and all this stuff at ownership level is this same force in the background. And indeed, you know, to a certain extent, this was acknowledged by the Swiss Institute of Technology in Zurich when they did this study on the connections between transnational corporations. And they found that these ones that are really red, these very, very few, have so many connections to the others that in effect that's one unit, which is what I've been saying for bloody years, that behind the apparent independence of these corporations, they're actually controlled and connected into the same group. And, you know, you've got these green lines connecting these transnational corporations, but around this group, there's so many connections, it's just one blob of green. And when you take the next step and you realize that the same network of families are actually controlling all these apparently unconnected transnational corporations, suddenly you can see that it's possible to push the world through all these different aspects of society in a common direction. So we have this thing, we call it globalization. What is globalization? It is the centralization of power in every area of our lives. When there's a few and you want to control the many, you have to centralize decision making. The more diversity of decision making there is, the more power obviously is diverted away from the center. The more you centralize, the fewer have control of more and more and more. So this is why we've seen this process of so-called globalization, which is what? It is centralizing power into fewer and fewer hands, so fewer and fewer people are having a bigger say and impact on more and more people. This is the idea. It's the only way you can do it. And like I think I said earlier, the more you centralize power, the more power you have at the center to centralize even quicker. That's why this process of centralization has got faster and faster. And as you can see, as we saw in the Olympics, the power of the corporations. The British public put in like 9 billion into the Olympics, and the corporations together put in about $1 billion, and yet they got everything. So much so that little people in their businesses or homes were being threatened with with the law if they just put some of the major symbols of the Olympics or words, you know, in a display. I was on the Isle of Wight. I just went out of interest, took a few pictures when the flame came through. I want to see what happened. This little town on the Isle of Wight, East Cowes, you would never know the Olympic flame was coming through. There was nothing. Why? Because they were all terrified of being sued by the corporations and those in government representing the corporations that had hijacked the Olympics. So it doesn't matter who is the president or prime minister, because the same force is in control. What force is that? And if you look at these underground bases, they call them DUMBs, deep underground military bases, they're all over the world. The level of security clearance to go deep into these bases and know what's going on is way above anybody political leader. They haven't got a clue what's going on in here. So they get elected and they have he's a prime minister, he's got power, oh, someone else has come in. And while all that's going on, someone's running these bloody things. Without the people in political power, apparent power, having a clue about it. If we find who is running these things, then we're getting very close to who's actually running the direction of human society. So behind it all is a force. The question is, what is it? So this is where we enter the twilight zone. But it's a twilight zone, again, everything is a point of observation. A twilight zone to a mainstream journalist will be perfectly bloody logical to someone who's done 50 years or so, or 25 years, or how many years it is of research into something. This is an important point about perception. One of the greatest ways that humanity is controlled is by the suppression of the sense of the possible. Once you put a wall on the sense of the possible, gotcha! Because anything that comes in, say the lie, if the sense of the possible is not fluid but rigid, it will have no alternative to the lie. I'll give you an example. If the mind is so rigid about possibility that it cannot perceive the fact that you can mind manipulate someone to either go shooting people in a crazed shooting, or be in the wrong place at the wrong time to be blamed for it when someone else has actually done it, then when the government comes out, whatever it is, and gives you the version of Dunblane, or gives you a version of the Colorado shooting in the theater and the shooting in the Sikh temple in Wisconsin,
then you have no alternative to the lie, because you can't perceive the possibility of anything else. But if you've got an open mind and an inquiring mind and a much wider sense of the possible, then you can look at the lie from another perspective and say, well, maybe this is what happened. So controlling the sense of the possible, because if you're doing things out here and you've got the sense of the possible here, then when people like me say, this is what's going on, that goes, you're bloody mad, that's not possible, that can't be going on. And the biggest problem is that, and it's not every one of them, by the way. I was talking to one the other day who was very kind of intelligent, involved in all this. But this, in general, is my experience after 25 years of the perception of the possible of a mainstream bloody journalist. And that's why...
Now, awaken, awaken, awaken. Well, we're going into some challenging information here and in the next section, so let me focus again. The idea that this is a lost cause that we're involved in here is no way is a lost cause. We take our power back, game over. So we can paint another picture. Please hold that thought, because it's very, very important we don't get pulled into fear by seeing what we're involved with. Now, Gino Krishnamurti said something very, very true when he said, if we can really understand the problem, the answer will come out of it, because the answer is not separate from the problem. They're indivisible. And you know, what I find in like some what they call New Age areas and stuff like that is, you mustn't talk about anything negative. Oh no. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never come across any knowledge that was negative. I've come across knowledge I'd rather not be true, but I've never come across knowledge that's actually negative. Ignorance is freaking negative, not knowledge, because you can do something with knowledge. And so the idea that, you know, we should be frightened of looking at things as they really are, I mean, it's just another version of looking the other way and hoping it will go away. It won't. So when people say, well, what's the solutions? Well, fundamental to any solution is to understand the nature of what we're dealing with. Because then we've got a much better chance of dealing with it. We know what we've got to deal with. And, you know, a lot in the conspiracy research arena, like I said earlier, brilliant. There's so many people involved in this now. But the vast majority of them will not go even close to where we're going to go in the next 2 hours or so, because of religious belief systems, or because, well, even if it's true and I say it, I'm going to lose my credibility. I think you lose your credibility if you don't go with what you believe to be true, and you edit that on the basis of what will people think of me if I say it. That's how we got into this frickin' mess. And unless we understand how deep the rabbit hole goes and what we're dealing with, we're never gonna find an answer to it. And just stockpiling weapons and fighting the system is just playing into the system's hands for reasons that will become clear, indeed, possibly already have. So we are infinite awareness, capable of multiple realities and perceiving multiple realities. We've been caught in the bamboozle, which has led to this and this through the control of perception. So who or what is ultimately behind this? Or at least the depth of the rabbit hole we've got so far. Well, they ain't, for a start. Because they're just here today, gone tomorrow, people who are just puppets of a system that's here yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the next day. It's not him. I don't care if he's supposed to be the most powerful man in the world. He ain't. He's another bloody glove puppet. And anyone in that job, the same applies to. It's not him either. Here today, gone tomorrow, presidents and leaders who are replaced by other leaders. But the system, the direction goes on, because there's something behind that that's pushing that direction on. And nor even is it the corporations. They're still at the level of playing out the control. It's not actually at the point of creating it. It's not the origin. It's not people sitting around tables. They're still at the point of playing it out. You can go into the shadows and you can get closer to where it's coming from, but you're still at the play-out level. You go even deeper into the rabbit hole, really deep into the web. And that's where you find people like the Rothschilds and such like. You don't see us, but we control your life. But there's levels beyond that, where it's coming from. But where is it? Okay, well, I'm going to cut to the frickin' chase, really. The truth doesn't change because you don't want to hear it. Now, obviously, I can't go into great detail with this. I mean, the perception deception is that bloody big. The whole day is about connecting dots to show the picture. And all I can say is for 25 years, I've been full-time on this, and the evidence has brought me to this conclusion. There's no one out there, you see. All that is, there's no one out there. And when you think that what we're seeing is only what is within a narrow band of visible light, and then you think what possibilities lie beyond that in the great infinite forever, the idea that we are alone is absolutely beyond ludicrous. And the fact that you can be seen as crazy for believing that shows how inverted the system is. This reality, this infinity, is teeming with different expressions of life. And some of it's interacting with us. This is Professor of Mathematics and Astronomy at Queen's Mary University, London, Bernard Carr. He said, our consciousness interacts with another dimension, actually many other dimensions. Our physical senses only show us a three-dimensional universe. What exists in the higher dimensions are entities we cannot touch with our physical senses. Exactly. So, the idea that we just operate in isolation of everything else is, for me, crazy. So, like I say, I'll cut to the chase. This reality that we're experiencing has been hijacked by a force that some ancient people call archons, but there's different names right across the ancient world for the same force, the same entities. This is when the penny drops, when all these different names for the gods all over the world turn out to be different names for the same force, because they're described in the same way. And all over the world you see this. In the Far East, Central America, and other places, they're known as the serpent gods. The Zulus call them the Chitahuri, the children of the serpent. They're the Anunnaki in Sumer, Babylon, now Iraq. They're our snake brothers to the Hopi people of North America. They're the star people, many, many examples of that. They are the demons of Christianity. To the Gnostics, they are archons. And to the Islamic and pre-Islamic world, they're called the jinn. And in their prime form, they are energetic in nature, but they can take form, as I will talk about. So, like I say, they're described so much in the same way, because they're different names for the same thing. So, the Gnostic people, not the Christian Gnostics, the pre-Christian Gnostics, that ran the great library at Alexandria, and they also manifested as the Cathars in southern France. They say that the archons are made from luminous fire. The jinn, according to Islamic and pre-Islamic belief, are made from smokeless fire. And you see this correlation of description wherever you go. Now, this, for me, was one of the great finds ever in terms of understanding the nature of what is happening. At Nag Hammadi in Egypt, about 77 miles north of Luxor on the Nile, in 1945, a sealed jar was found with loads and loads of documents in it, leather-bound. And they told the beliefs and the perceptions of this people called the Gnostics. And the Gnostics had a completely different view of reality than religion, which is why the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Church tried to destroy them wherever they got any strength and any foothold. They ran the great library at Alexandria, which had something like 500,000 scrolls detailing the beliefs of the ancient world and the history of the ancient world, destroyed by the Roman Church. And, like I say, the Cathars, who were destroyed again by the Roman Church in 1244, I think it was, at that place in France, Montségur, that fort on the hill where I've been a couple of times. The religious establishment wanted these people destroyed because they were dangerous, because they had the truths they didn't want the people to know about. And this is what these scrolls and this find at Nag Hammadi said. 1/5 of the texts, and there were lots of them, were about a force they called the archons, which they say created our physical universe, and they equated them with the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God. And when you see the Old Testament kill 'em and flog 'em and all that stuff God, it fits precisely with the descriptions of starting to operate outside of the North Atlantic area as it expands itself into a fully fledged world army. And look at where it is now, all over the bloody place. Microchip population. They want a microchip population connected to a computer system for which there are enormous implications. We'll get to that later. Obviously enormous implications. Under that, they want a series of unions. Not just these, they want a Middle East union and others, but these are some of them. And they're all mirrors of the European Union. And by the time you get here to nation states, and they want to break nation states up into regions, they have no power whatsoever. And the power's moving more and more into so-called democratic operations like the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization, which are Rothschild, Rockefeller creations from the start, because they love us and they want to help us. And readers of my books over the years will see how I've been saying they want these unions all over the place, including the North American Union. And now you've got people like David Petraeus, the former head of the CIA and big military man, and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. I can't believe it when I see her. You are a politician, you make decisions, you can breathe. I can't work it out when I see her. Unbelievable. The fact that she's in high levels of politics shows how mad the world is. But what they're talking about now is introducing the North American Union. Exactly as people like me have been saying all these years. Not because we're genius, but if you know the agenda, you can predict the future for reasons I've said. And this is the virus spreading, this centralization of power. So then we come to the Archon web, because somehow they have to globally construct and organize this. And all these different elements of global society end up with the same controlling force. And the way they've structured it is like a transnational corporation. You have a transnational corporation, whatever it is, and they'll have a headquarters somewhere. And then they'll have companies and subsidiaries all over the world. And the subsidiaries will answer to the headquarters. So you'll go into the same corporate bloody restaurants wherever you are in the world, because it's dictated centrally. And this is a global corporation made up of secret societies and satanic societies, etc. You have the headquarters is actually in Europe. And then in each country, they'll have a network that it's holographic, because every part of the network is a mirror of the way the central part works. So here you'll have a network, say in the United States, of families and operations and secret societies whose job it is to introduce in the United States what's dictated from there. In Britain, you'll have the same. In France, you'll have the same. In Australia, you'll have the same. And therefore, this is dictating through this structure the same agenda, which is why the same things keep unfolding all over the world about the same time. This is an important group of organizations within that structure, which was created out of a secret society called the Round Table, which was set up in Britain in the latter part of the 19th century. The first head was Cecil Rhodes, a massive Rothschild frontman, plundered South Africa for them with the gold mines and the diamonds. And then this Round Table created offshoot organizations which answer to that. Council on Foreign Relations, massively involved in American foreign policy to this day. The Bilderberg Group, a lot of people will know all about that. It was this organization that created the United Nations, especially the Council on Foreign Relations. The Trilateral Commission, that's another operation out of America. And this, the Club of Rome from the 1960s, was specifically set up to use the environment and threats to the environment as excuses to transform global society. That's where ultimately global warming comes from. So you've got these organizations that seem to be independent, but they're all answering to the same masters. So the idea is that you keep the population in ignorance of all of that, so they haven't got a clue how they're being manipulated. And you hoard the knowledge in the upper echelons of this structure. Archon politics. This system, this network that I've just described, spews out the bloody leaders that we're given to choose at elections. Do you want this mask on the same face or that mask on the same face? That's what politics or political choice has been reduced to. And of course, most of them are of this archontic bloodline or agents of this archontic bloodline who are basically psychopaths, and thus anything bloody goes. And so these people, like I said much earlier, are here today, gone tomorrow, frontmen for this hidden hand. I like that one. All these presidents of Republican or Democrat, they answer to the same bloody masters, and that's why nothing changes. The agenda goes on. The Bush and Obama example is classic. During the Bush years, the Bush administration was controlled by a group in the shadows, some not in the shadows, they were seen, called the neocons or neoconservatives. This was widely reported in the media. The Democratic Party is controlled by a group in the shadows and some not in the shadows, which I call the democons. I put Kissinger in the democons because he's advising Obama at the moment, but he's usually over there. This is the key. At the next level, the neocons and the democons answer to the same master. And therefore, whoever is here is answering to the same master. And that's why whoever is here, the same agenda unfolds. Change, 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 change. Him on steroids. So, that's how it works. And it works like that in this country. It works like that in virtually every country. And so democracy and the voice of the people is an absolute illusion. Here's Obama Bush. There you are. There's the composite. Here's the world's first face transplant a success. There you go. That's how it works. You know, when people attack people for saying what's the point in voting, they're just showing they haven't got a clue. There's no point in voting because you're voting for the same force no matter what. By not voting en masse, you're saying we've sussed it, we're not having it anymore. We're not giving you credibility by supporting a rigged system. And then people say, well, so-and-so will get in. It doesn't matter, because they're all the bloody same. And the way they do it is this pyramid system. All political parties all over the world are pyramid systems. When you enter the political party, you've got to do what the political party wants to rise through the ranks to the top, become a minister or whatever. And if you go against the policy because you have a mind of your own, and you're not just a political bloody pawn or clone, then you don't get up there. So all the people that get to the top are the ones that have done what the system wants. And so the top of the pyramids are dictating to everyone within the pyramid. Anyone that's got a mind of their own is a rebel. He can't become a minister. He can't become a member of the shadow cabinet. And in this way, ultimately, although the vast overwhelming majority of these people have no idea this is the case, the same force is dictating through all of them. if not directly, then by controlling and manipulating the system they're operating in. That's a great line, isn't it? If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. Ain't that the truth? And so you get this, the march of tyranny. What it goes is, oh, I don't like them Republicans and what they're doing, I'm voting Democrat. I don't like what their Democrats are doing, who can I vote for? Well, you've only got the I'll vote Republican. Oh, I'll vote Labour. I don't like them. I'll vote Conservative. Don't like them either. Who can I vote? I'll vote Labour. So it fricking goes on. It's an illusion. If anybody can give me any policies that take Clegg and Miliband and Cameron off the same bloody postage stamp, I'd like to bloody hear them. And then behind that, you've got the legal system, which is imposing the will of the political system. I'm a judge, and that means I do whatever the government tells me. They're not all like that, but you want something that's absolutely not going to go wrong, you put a safe man in to have the inquiry. Lord Hutton on David Kelly, I rest my case. So, don't cheat, don't lie, don't sell drugs, don't kill. The government hates competition. And when you go deeply into that, especially in America, and don't sell drugs, you find that's exactly what they're doing through their agencies. Archon Hunger Games. This is now, we're getting into the society they want us to live in and the one we're seeing unfold by the day. And it's time to stop it bloody unfolding. Of course, the Hunger Games was this movie that involved a reality TV show which was about terrible brutality. Every person for themselves, and the one standing had killed or others had killed all the rest. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. Violence in the media and movies will be increased to desensitize people to violence and make them feel that life is short, precarious, and brutish. It's part of the social engineering. But the reason I call it the Hunger Games Society is in that movie, the society was broken up into sectors. Each sector was responsible for certain specializations. And then and these were all in abject frickin' poverty, basically. And then you had the capital, where a tiny, tiny few people lived parasitically off the efforts of the poverty-stricken masses. And that's what they want. We had the elite in the capital dictating to the masses through a vicious police state. And here we have the Hunger Games in Britain. Woman in £1 million hat makes speech about austerity. Oh, what a load of bollocks it all really is. And have you noticed, my government. Now, this is the structure that they are moving towards. They want a tiny few at the top that take all the wealth, have all the control, and all the benefits. Down here, they want the masses living in abject poverty as slaves to that elite. And the elite are the archontic bloodlines, and the masses are the human target population. And to hold that status quo, they need a police state that's going to impose it. That's what's unfolding before our eyes. And this is the Hunger Games society. And when I say the masses living in poverty, I mean the masses. Their target is not just those in poverty now. Their target is people who have a lot of money now, a lot of wealth now, who think they're doing all right now. They want the lot. If you're not part of this elite, then they want everything you've got. So you end up in the poverty-stricken masses. That's what's happening. And one of the great excuses for it, and engine rooms for it, is this total bollocks about human-caused climate change. Violin music, anyone? Here he is, Al Gore. Bloody hell, if he ever told the truth, he would genetically self-destruct. The big lie of Big Al. It's a scam. And it's a scam to change the nature of human society, justified by saving the planet, which these buggers are destroying. And look, it's become the new red in terms of communism. It has. Save the planet, be a slave. This is the head of the Green Party. Get rid of any cabinet ministers or senior governmental advisors who refuse to accept the scientific consensus on climate change or who won't take the risks to the UK seriously. Well, what if they don't take you seriously, darling? How about that? And then you have this guy, chairman of the Common Science and Technology Committee. Frightening that he is, but let's hear what he's got to say. Ministers who question the majority view among scientists about climate change should shut up. The BBC give less airtime to climate skeptics, and its editors should seek special clearance to interview them. Appearances on radio and television by climate skeptics should be accompanied by a health warning or health warnings. And then you have this lady, Professor Kari Norgard of Oregon University. Cultural resistance to accepting the premise that humans are responsible for climate change must be recognized and treated as an aberrant sociological behavior. This is where we're going, to shut up those exposing the lie. Like this guy, how green zealots gagged professor who dared to question global warming. No A level for climate change denier. My son Jamie was told by his teacher when he was at school that if he said in his exam that he didn't agree with global warming caused by human activity, and he said so, he would not pass. That's the society that we frickin' live in. The Global Warming Survival Handbook by David de Rothschild. And all these blokes, they wheel these people out whenever they want a concert to bloody program the masses. Bollocks begets bollocks. Once you have the fact that human activity is not changing the climate in the way they say, then everything that comes from that must be bollocks in things that are done on the basis that they are, and it is. So, here are the greenhouse gases, the major ones. You would think that CO2, carbon dioxide, is here. You got to, the propaganda, it has to be. No, this is it. And the green bit is the only part that is from human activity. The rest is natural, and without carbon dioxide, we would not have a planet that we do. And that is water vapor and clouds. So we must tax and ban condensation. There we go. Now, this is Professor Leslie Woodcock, Empress Professor, University of Manchester, this great list of things that he's been responsible for. And he said this: water is a much more powerful greenhouse gas, and there is 20 times more of it in our atmosphere, around 1% of the atmosphere, whereas CO2 is only 0.04%. Carbon dioxide has been made out to be some kind of toxic gas, but the truth is it's the gas of life, inversion. We breathe it out, plants breathe it in, and it's not caused by us. Global warming is nonsense. And then there's this guy in Australia, I won't read it all, but the major part that he said, he used to be massively, yes, it's all true, and then realized it wasn't. And he says here, the theory was based on a guess that was proved false by empirical evidence during the 1990s, but the gravy train was too big with too many jobs, industries, trading profits, political careers, and the possibility of world government and total control riding on the outcome. Exactly. Now, here's the hockey stick. It just shows that suddenly, whoa, it's gone through the roof. We're all gonna die, start swimming. But what they did to create that hockey stick and that perception deception is they missed this off, the medieval warm period. All that time ago, 1000 AD forward, when the temperatures were much warmer than they are today. Where was the human-created carbon dioxide then? And then, after the medieval warm period, they went into the Little Ice Age through here up to the 1900s. And it was so cold, they had Little Ice Age frost fairs on the Thames. Now, when they say to you, oh, this is the warmest year since records began, it's good to ask, well, when did records begin? And loads of them started during the Little Ice Age, which gives a massively distorted view of comparison. This is the truth. From 1997 to 2012, and it's gone on now to 2014, temperatures did not rise. That's why global warming became climate change in the propaganda. Global warming, it goes up, it goes down. That's what it's always done. 7 years ago, Big Al said the ice cap is falling off a cliff. It could be completely gone in the summer in as little as 7 years from now. We are 7 years from then. And it's just increased by 43%. And the scientists say that the greater ice is caused by global warming. Yeah, but this guy's bettered it. This guy's bettered it. French President Hollande, ISIS terror caused by global warming. Did you know the moon is made from fromage? And this comes from CERN. They found that there was virtually a perfect correlation between climate change and the penetration of cosmic rays into Earth's atmosphere throughout history. In other words, you can't be saying temperature is affected by the sun. That is crazy. Have you noticed they never mention the sun? Never mention it. It's CO2. It's the frickin' sun. Goes through cycles. That's why it goes up and down. And here's the Club of Rome, created in this network to use the environment to transform global society. Here's one of its founders, quoted in his own publication in 1991, "In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill." Thank you. Over and out. Here's Bill. One of the major in America and globally, one of the proponents of climate change. It's a terrible problem and it absolutely needs to be solved. It deserves to be a huge priority. Why do you go download something, mate? Eh? This is what human science can do now. Biology is fundamentally discrete, based on a sets of nucleic and amino acids combined into genes and proteins. And computers are fundamentally discrete, based on bits of data processed by logic gates. The latter have long been used to study the former, but a range of emerging technologies are now making it possible to directly convert between these representations. Just as analog digital and digital analog converters provide the interface between computers and the physical world of sensors and actuators, biology digital and digital biology converters are allowing computers to create and control biological worlds. They're starting to be able to create biological virtual realities now, or they're on the road to it. What if there's a much greater force? I think there might be, I don't think we're at the cutting edge of knowledge in all that exists, ever has been, personally. What you could be doing in terms of creating a reality. And this is a study at the University of Bonn into whether we live in a simulation. And this is a report. They say that they may have evidence that the universe is a computer simulation. They pointed out in a paper called "Constraints on the Universe as a Numerical Simulation" that simply being a simulation would create its own laws of physics that would limit possibility. I said in books years ago, the laws of physics that we think are laws of physics here are not universal. They're the laws of physics in the way this reality works. That's all. They're not universal. What are the laws of physics? Click, click, enter. Whatever you bloody make them. Scientists talk about a phenomenon known as the GZK cutoff, which is an apparent boundary for cosmic ray particles caused by the interaction with cosmic background radiation. The University of Bonn paper says that this pattern of constraint mirrors what you would find with a computer simulation. They say that like a prisoner in a pitch black cell, we would not be able to see the walls of our prison. And this is right on the other side of the world. James Gates, an American theological physicist, professor of physics at the University of Maryland and director of the Center of String and Particle Theory. This was reported in Physics World. There may be evidence to show that our reality is a simulation akin to the movie The Matrix. Yes, Gates and his team of researchers discovered equations in the fabric of the universe that contain embedded computer codes of digital data. They take the form of 1 and 0 and 0, the binary system of on-off electrical charges used by computers, and he says we have no idea what they are doing there. I think I can help him. Computers and other electrical technology are embedded with mathematical sequences known as error-correcting codes or block codes, which return data to its original state if something changes or interferes with it during transmission. Gates and his team have found these sequences within the fabric of our reality, but they don't know what they are doing there. They're holding the reality in place for reasons I'll explain in part 2. And what I would say the biggest blocking code of this reality, this fake reality, as I'll explain after lunch, the speed of light. The speed of light is not the fastest speed, it's pedestrian. How can you have a fastest speed within all possibility? It is the walls of the reality, the fake reality that we've been manipulated to decode, believing it to be real. And they've been talking for centuries and centuries about the fact that this is some kind of enclosed world. And it is. And like a prisoner in a pitch black cell, we may never be able to see the walls of our prison until we wake up. So, put this all together, and we're living a fake identity. We think we're our name, our race, our job, our income bracket, our religion, and our life story. I am whatever the system tells me I am. No, we're not. We are what we are. Infinite possibility. Jim Morrison, great quote. The most important freedom is to be who you really are. You trade your reality for a role, a mask. You trade your sense for an act. You give up your ability to feel. In exchange, you put on a mask. There can't be any large-scale revolution until there is a personal revolution on an individual level. It's got to happen inside first. And so we need to stop living the lie and start living the truth of who we really are. We are infinite awareness. We are not humans. That is our experience. We are infinite awareness having that experience. Infinite possibility. And this is a wonderful quote I've used a few times, but it's so brilliant from a near-death experiencer. What they experience outside of the body. Everything from the beginning, from my birth, my ancestors, my children, my wife, everything comes together simultaneously. I saw everything about me and about everyone who was around me. I saw everything they were thinking now, what they thought then, what was happening before, what was happening now. There is no time, there is no sequence of events, no such thing as limitation of distance, of period, of place. I could be anywhere I wanted to be simultaneously. That's who we are, and that's what the system is seeking to keep from us, to hold us in this one narrow band of point of attention. And bollocks begets bollocks. That's why the whole of our society is flawed and distorted and inverted, because it's coming from a totally fake position of the reality that we are. Yippee, we know all about the known. No, you know what you've been told. And if you tell the system back what you've been told, you pass exams and you progress within the system. Congratulations. Wisdom is knowing how little we know. And that doesn't mean you believe everything, of course not, but it means your mind is constantly open to all possibility. We are in an intellect prison. We worship the intellect. This is the isolated intellect without consciousness. Village bloody idiot. That's the intellect. It looks at dots and it focuses on dots, but it can't connect them to see the picture. And so, this is why infinite awareness, all that has been, ever can be, has been reduced to this. And the world that we live in has been reduced to that through delusion, the delusion of illusion, and why we ridicule and we kill and despise those that can see beyond the program. You are the universe, but society teaches limitation. Why? Who's behind the bamboozle? Who benefits from it? Why is this nonsense going on? Be back in 1 hour. Thank you very much. Thank you.